All right, thank you, everybody. It is 3 minutes after, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Before I do, I just wanted to check with Erica and David. Do we have anyone else that's in the waiting room?
Not right now, but we'll keep monitoring and letting people in as they join.
Okay, definitely want to get started in a timely manner. So, good afternoon, everybody. Want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for their interest and attendance today. Just for everyone's awareness, this afternoon's session is being recorded. My name is Brian Meyer. I'm from the U.S. Coast Guard's 13th District. I'm the U.S. Coast Guard's co-chair for Regional Response Team 10. We'll be doing some additional introductions, opening remarks in a moment here, but before we get to that, I'd like to review some ground rules and go over this afternoon's agenda. Before I go to the next slide, just wanted to point out that a lot of the information that we're going to be discussing here, and for additional information, and to sign up and make sure that you're a part of our listserv, you can go and find that additional information at the RRT website. The RRT website is listed here, www.rrt10nwac.com. So first, our meeting ground rules. We ask that you please ensure to mute your mic. If you have questions, we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. You can go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll call on you during the question and answer session. You can also put into the chat your questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions when we get to that question and answer session. If you come on and have a question, you can use your camera when speaking. That's not required. If you want, you can turn on your camera. And we do ask that you be respectful of the speakers and avoid any interruptions. Okay, so changes are coming to contingency planning in the Pacific Northwest, and our goal today is to give this audience an overview of these changes. So after our welcome, we will give a brief review of our current plans and discuss where we plan to go as a region. We're going to discuss the agreed upon framework under which we're going to operate to make these changes. And then we're going to discuss our 2025 meeting schedule. Then we're going to discuss how this might impact industry response plans. And finally, we're going to hold that question and answer session. I've already introduced myself. There are also several other members present from District 13, notably our acting RT coordinator, Lieutenant Jamie Waterman. Jamie's going to help facilitate this presentation and specifically the question and answer part, and she can be your main point of contact for the Coast Guard should you have any questions or concerns after our meeting concludes. And her email is there along with the EPA's RT 10 coordinator, Mary Gooley. And then also present from the US EPA today is my RT 10 co-chair, Beth Sheldrake. Beth, do you have any opening remarks?
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. And thank you everyone for spending some time with us today. This has been a journey, but we are excited to share some progress and some plans for the future, which will, I think, will be of interest to everyone. So again, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, Beth. We're now going to allow for some opening comments from key RRT members, members that have been involved in the development of our framework that we're going to talk about, the framework for change. I'd like to ask these members to keep their comments around 2 minutes or so for the sake of time. So starting with our Coast Guard sectors, we've ensured that we've got appropriate representation from each of our coastal area committees. From Sector Puget Sound, I believe we have Captain Mark McDonnell and some others. Captain, do you have any opening remarks?
Good afternoon, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. This is Captain Mark McDonald, Sector Puget Sound Commander. I'm here with some of my colleagues, including Captain Hunt, the Deputy Sector Commander. We have Trish Jansen, our EMFR, and also Chief Warrant Officer Mike Vershane, part of our incident management shop. Sector Puget Sound is currently operating under the approved area contingency plan and looks forward to continually improving this product through our robust planning cycle that we have. And our next update to build that new plan architecture is well underway in partnership with Washington State Ecology and our area committee partners. And we're tracking well to meet the October 2026 deadline. The team is also working closely with the regional team to help restructure the regional plan. Newer partners are working on this project to ensure that the quality body of work that exists today doesn't lose any of its contents as we move forward. We're also working closely with our partner sector to our south, Captain Noggle and his team, Sector Columbia River, to ensure alignment and information sharing throughout the region. Although we'll have separate plans, we don't expect there to be major differences between those plans, and we hope to take the best of all plans and share that across the region. And then just one final note, and having been the sector commander for 18 months and previous to that working in District 13, I would just say the partnership with our partners here in the Puget Sound region has never been stronger. And every time we have had an incident, the quality and then the partnership ceases to amaze me. It's just a tremendous team, and I have full confidence that when we have any type of incident, the team comes together and executes our missions in a collaborative fashion. So really grateful to be a part of the team here, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Captain. Sector Columbia River, I believe we have Captain Noggle. Captain, do you have any opening remarks?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Brian. This is Captain Noggle, the Sector Commander for Sector Columbia River. Yeah, I'll echo a lot of what Captain McDonald said, but want to specifically thank Oregon DEQ and Washington Ecology for their close coordination and collaboration on the progress that we've made to date with our ACP to march towards that October 2026 deadline. To date, we've completed the Area Committee Charter, which outlines the jurisdiction, membership, and the overall mission of the Area Committee. This was signed on October 1st, and it will be included in our new ACP. And a significant amount of progress has already been made on conducting a crosswalk of the current NWAC and the local sector Columbia River ACP to ensure that none of the essential details and all the hard work that's been put into that regional plan gets carried over, and that no details are overlooked. The collaborative team has completed an in-depth review and edits to sections 2000 through 4000, which is a significant bulk of the work. And we've taken a meticulous approach to reviewing and integrating updates, which I believe is a testament to the team's commitment to thoroughness and accuracy. And I want to give a shout out to Don Pettit with DEQ and Karen Denny from Washington Ecology and Chief Warrant Officer O'Neill for all of the collaboration there. And again, I think this collaborative effort and the work that this team has done really reflects our commitment to regional alignment, as well as operational readiness and maintaining robust contingency planning, and really helps ensure that we're ready for whatever comes next. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Noggle. We also have some representatives from the states. I think we have Wes Risher here from Oregon DEQ. Wes, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my video to show here. Let me make sure that works with Zoom. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Wes Risher, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality's Emergency Response Manager, and I wanted to just make a couple comments with regard to this process. It's been long and in effort, but I'm really pleased that we're at a place where we can actually make forward progress on the development of the area contingency plans for both Sector Columbia River and Sector Puget Sound. As Captain Noggle mentioned, I want to give a shout out to Don Pettit, Karen Denning, and Brian O'Neill for their efforts on Sector Columbia River and getting our charter in place, and the work that they've done so far on this effort. It is just the beginning, but at the same time, it's been a pretty significant endeavor. And lastly, I'd like to again thank Washington Ecology for the Ruckle House Center effort and investment in this process and getting the framework in place that we're operating under today. Thank you ecology. You've made major efforts in this and got us to this place today. With that, I'll turn it over to Nee Irwin.
Yeah, thank you, Wes. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nee Irwin. I'm with the Washington State Department of Ecology. I'm the acting program manager right now. Carlos Clemens sends his regrets and regards for not being able to be here today. So I just want to echo all of the appreciation for the team that has been working on this. It has been a very long process and journey, and we certainly have had our road bumps on the way, but I think overall the collaborativeness and the willingness to work through this process has been incredibly present, and everybody has really maintained their engagement in working really hard to get this to a place where we can all collectively use it, and it's productive and meets all the requirements. I also want to thank those of you who are directly impacted by all of this, the industry partners. I know this has been probably a confusing process, and you've been just waiting to see how everything lays out. And hopefully today's session will help you do that. So we really appreciate your patience and support throughout this process. I know one of the goals that everybody has is to make sure that these plans are not in conflict with each other, isn't confusing, that there's a streamlined process for clarity, as well as, maintaining a way to sustainably update them as time passes as well. And I know the team is working really hard through all of the rewrites and production of the plans. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll pass it on to Sarah from Idaho.
Yes, thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us today. I just want to thank our other state partners within Oregon and Washington, as well as the EPA and the Coast Guard for their continued commitment in this process to create a product that is going to be useful for everyone in Region 10. So thank you again for joining us today. Dean, did you want to say a couple words?
I just wanted to kind of reiterate what everybody said. There's been a lot of time and effort put into getting us to this point, and we also look forward to working with our inland partners in developing the inland area plan. So thank you.
All right, thanks to all our sector and state representatives. These representatives are also going to be available during the question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. We'd also like to acknowledge our tribal RRT members, the Makah, Situ-Klusi, and the Yakima. Are there any representatives from the Makah that would like to make any opening comments? Jenna?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jenna Rolfe. I'm an environmental policy analyst working with the Makah Tribe's Office of Marine Affairs that has focused on oil spill prevention and preparedness. Vice Chairman Bochop has had significant leadership in the Makah Tribe being involved in oil spill planning and the RRT for the last 15, 16 years. And we are also part of this restructuring process and would like to thank the Washington Department of Ecology for bringing in the Ruckelshaus House Center and really putting resources to making sure this process goes smooth. And thank you to the Oregon and Idaho state partners as well as the United States Coast Guard, who's our federal trust partner. And we really appreciate our partnership with them and everyone involved in making sure the highest protection standard for our waters is maintained throughout the restructuring of these plans. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenna. Do we have anyone on from the Situ-Klusi? Or the Yakima tribe? Okay, hearing nothing, we're going to go on and go over kind of the changes that are, we say the changes are coming, the changes are actually already here. They're in progress, the changes to contingency planning in the Pacific Northwest. Just a reminder of our current state. We currently have 3 promulgated plans. So that's the Northwest Area Contingency Plan, the Sector Puget Sound, the Area Contingency Plan, and the Sector Columbia River Area Contingency Plan. We're currently in the process, and you heard some of the other partners talk about this, of reorganizing these 3 plans into 4 distinct plans. So we will have a regional contingency plan, which will be promulgated and facilitated by the regional response team, the RT. There will be an inland area contingency plan, which will be promulgated and facilitated by an EP-led inland area committee. And then the 2 coastal area contingency plans, those will remain, but there will be some changes to those area contingency plans. They're going to be brought into a new Coast Guard coastal area plan architecture, and those will be facilitated by the 2 Coast Guard-led area committees, one for Puget Sound and one for Columbia River. All of these changes are going to be implemented via an agreed upon spill contingency planning framework. That framework has been made available on the RT10 website. I see that Erica had posted the link that I showed earlier in the chat. So if you are unfamiliar with the website, I encourage you to go to the website. That's where you can see the spill contingency planning framework. I'll just refer to it as the framework going forward. And over the next couple of slides, we'll go over some of the details in that framework. All right, so what is the framework? This says developed in July 2024, but I think it would be more accurate to say that it was signed in July. It actually was about a year or so in development, and I can't say enough about our core group that managed to come up with this agreement and kind of decided on how we're going to enact some of this change. It outlines the following, and I'm going to go into each of these bullet points in a little more detail over subsequent slides, but it outlines kind of the hierarchy of plans. It outlines who is a part of the RRT, who is a part of the area committees. And then it proposes and kind of develops a new meeting schedule, a coordinated meeting schedule, which is important. It's important to note that our NWAC steering committee, that has been replaced by a region-wide planning committee. This entity will continue many of the same functions as the old steering committee, but it's also going to be charged with ensuring consistency throughout our region. It's also important to note that the framework also insists as a condition that no substantive content in the existing plans that's in the Northwest Area Contingency Plan, in the current Coastal Area Contingency Plans, are going to be lost during the creation of our new suite of plans. So with respect to the hierarchy of plans, the framework acknowledges the National Response Systems Planning Framework, which is outlined in this figure in the National Contingency Plan. Under this figure, you can note that there's 3 general levels of planning and response. We've got national level planning, where we have our international joint plans, our National Contingency Plan, and the National Response Framework. And then we have regional level planning, which is represented by the different regional contingency plans, and then area level planning, the area contingency plans that we talked about before, which in state will be one inland area contingency plan, and then the Puget Sound area contingency plan and Columbia River area contingency plan. The National Response System also recognizes that there are state, tribal, local, and other industry plans, and that these plans are integrated with that area contingency plan. And that's kind of at the most local level of response planning. Key difference between regional level planning and area level planning. An area contingency plan will provide and should provide response actions, whereas our regional contingency plans, those are supposed to provide guidance and or coordination. So at the regional level, guidance and coordination. At the area level, we're looking for response actions. As far as memberships, the regional contingency plan, that's developed by the RRT. RRT membership is outlined in the National Contingency Plan, and this includes local reps from the federal agencies that are on the national response team. In addition to that group, you'll see that we also include the states and the tribes that are in that particular region. Area committees, they should be organized to include members from federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial government agencies, local government, industry, non-governmental organizations, any other interested stakeholders. Those are encouraged to participate at that area planning level. So that type of input is invaluable, encouraged at encouraged at the area committee level. Now, coordination between the RRT and the area committees is critical. And to accomplish this, you're going to see on the next slide, we've proposed that the leadership of those entities meet periodically throughout the year. 2025 will be the first full year in which we will follow kind of a new meeting schedule. Per the National Contingency Plan, it states that RRTs should meet at least semi-annually. Now, RRT 10 has historically met about 3 times a year. Starting in 2025, the RRT, this is RRT 10, will meet in the spring and then again in the fall. Now, to help alleviate travel burden, we will be holding our spring RRT meetings in conjunction with a coastal area committee meeting. And then the fall RRT meetings will be held in conjunction with an inland area committee meeting. It's not necessary that we hold the RRT meetings in conjunction with area committee meetings. That's not a requirement. But as part of that framework, we agreed to do this, again, to help alleviate travel costs, travel burden. So the spring meetings are going to be held in conjunction with RT meetings, and they're going to alternate between the Puget Sound Area Committee and the Columbia River Area Committee. So for this next year, we're going to have a meeting in March, which will be the Puget Sound Area Committee meeting. And in conjunction with that meeting, we're also going to have our RRT 10 meeting and then an area and regional leadership meeting. In May, we're going to have a Columbia River Area Committee meeting. And then in September, that's when we're going to have another co-located meeting. That's going to be the Inland Area Committee meeting held in conjunction with the RRT 10 meeting and the area and regional leadership meeting. Columbia River will also have a area committee meeting in October. Puget Sound will have an area committee meeting in November. And then in December, we'll be holding a joint area committees meeting, which will replace our traditional NWAC planning summit. Now, note that I haven't given you any specific dates here yet, and that's by design. We're asking you to please pay close attention to the RT website for dates that impact you and or join our mailing list. You can also do that on the RT website. Okay. let's see. One of the things that I want to point out is that there may be additional area committee meetings. The RRT is not prescribing how often the area committees meet here. There may be additional area committee meetings that need to be held throughout the year, and that could start in 2025. All right, so how does this impact industry? Well, first and foremost, use the existing Northwest Area Contingency Plan and Coastal Area Contingency Plans until the new plans are promulgated. So we do not expect the new plans to be promulgated until fall of 2026. We are in the process of working on those plans, but we still have a year and a half or so until those plans will be promulgated. This will not impact submission of approval of your industry response plans. So work with Coast Guard, EPA, the states, as far as your individual facility response plans. I urge everyone to engage with the appropriate area committee, and then it may be that you're impacted by multiple committees now, depending on the type of facility or type of industry you're involved in. This is, again, by design. We're hoping to get involvement at the different area committee levels so that we can get good planning at that local level. And then also note that this meeting today, this is essentially taking the place of our traditional NWAC summit. The summit, that's going to return as the joint area committees meeting in December of 2025. All right, so that ends the prepared part of today's program. I want to thank everybody again for your interest in for making time today. We have our designated panel from the RRT and area committees ready to answer questions. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and Mary to kind of manage the question and answer session. What I can ask of everyone is if you can, please raise your hand or wait on a moderator to call on you. We'll try to answer that as the hands go up. And then alternatively, if you have questions, please go ahead and place that question in the chat, and the panel will work to answer those questions as they come up. So thanks again for your time and attendance.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Lieutenant Jamie Waterman. Feel free to go ahead, like Brian said, if you have a question, either raise your hand or drop it in the chat. It looks like our chat is currently all caught up, but if not, feel free to reach out. Okay, I see Kieran Gray. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks so much. Kieran Gray, Oregon DEQ. I just had a general question for leadership here. Based on the subcommittees that were established under the Northwest Area Contingency Plan, the GRP subcommittee and the Tribal Engagement subcommittee, with the changes and the reorganization of the plans, who would those subcommittees be reporting to? Do they fall under the RRT umbrella? And how do the different area plans now take the work from those subcommittees?
Okay. Would so that sounds like, go ahead.
So first, I will still have at this point, and then I may defer to Beth, but our GRP and our tribal subcommittees will still continue under the regional response team. And then I think it'll be up to each area committee what their subcommittees, what will be created. I think so far we have admin subcommittees as the plans are being updated. And then Beth, if you had anything else, and then probably to check in with the two area committees that are already created, Puget Sound and Columbia River, to see if there is any subcommittees already in starting to be created under those area committees. So Beth, did you have anything else?
Yeah, great question, Kirian. And those subcommittees were actually promulgated under what we used to call the executive committee, which was a combination of the RRT and the NWAC. So they are, we look at those as region wide. And so as Mary said, those at this point will continue under the RRT leadership.
Thank you.
We have a question from Ricky in the chat. She said, is there an opportunity to update the ACPs during the reorganization process, specifically to include worker health monitoring units and public health assessment units? I would like to give the ACP working groups the opportunity to comment on that. So that would either be the two sectors or the state agencies. We'll start with Puget Sound.
Yeah, hi Jamie, we're here in the room. I think Mike Rushane's going to answer the question.
Yes, there's opportunities to continue to update the ACPs during the process. When we get new incoming data or any changes, we can still update that in its current existing form, but the new form under the new architecture won't be released until October 26th.
Thanks, Mike. I think we're having a little trouble hearing you, but Ricky, let us know if you couldn't hear that. And then Columbia River, anything additional to add on that?
No, not really. But yeah, we're not quite there yet. But as we get to those sections, we're looking at those sections and comparing them against the NWAC, which was previously the NWAC, and making sure we're not losing any content.
And Jamie, can I add a little bit to that for the Northwest
Absolutely.
Area Plan? Yeah, so the Northwest Area Plan also could be updated in this intervening time. We did that recently through a record of changes and a letter of promulgation. So specific sections were updated in the Northwest Area Contingency Plan. So we have talked about that as really an important thing to be able to be nimble during this time of change. So as critical updates become identified, we would do that through that similar process.
Columbia River, is that in response to this question, or is it a new question?
It is, Ms. Waterman. We're going to throw our email here in the chat. So if our industry partners do identify something and they have a reference, you can, if you could email it to us while we're in these documents, we'll be taking a look at this email, and yeah, we welcome all input. We'll be putting it in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question. Will the Northwest Wildlife Plan Section 9310 remain in the regional contingency plan? So I can take this one. We aren't there yet. Short answer. Long answer is as we're going through the currently signed NWACP, we're taking a look at what is appropriate for a regional contingency plan and what is appropriate for an area contingency plan. So there may be pieces that are appropriate for both, but the point right now is we're not there yet. From Fish and Wildlife, I know that's not a great answer, but is that enough for now?
Jamie, maybe I can also add, in the framework, we did talk about the content of plans and like Jamie said, the acknowledgement that information may reside in both, information may be referenced in both. And so there isn't really a bright line necessarily between what goes in a regional plan and what goes in an area plan. So that is the hard work that is going on by the region-wide planning committee currently.
And then we also in the chat have another statement from Ricky. Moving forward with these units as recommended by the Health and Safety Task Force will also require integration into the RCPs. It's not just ACPs. These changes have already been identified in the task force report and where to cite them. How should we proceed with implementing them?
Yeah, maybe I'll just jump in. So Ricky, thanks for your question and for all your hard work on that health and safety task force. The recommendations that came out of that task force are still under consideration, and we need to evaluate the best way to incorporate them and decide to incorporate them and how to do that in which plan. So again, appreciate all the work of that task force. And I guess similar to Jamie's comment, we're not quite there yet, but I appreciate you raising it.
Thanks, Columbia River. They just dropped their email in the chat. And again, that was for updates requested for the coastal area contingency plan for Columbia River. I think we are all caught up in the chat. We'll keep monitoring it for further questions, or feel free to raise your hand.
We don't have any additional hands at this moment either. So we can pause to give time if there are other questions.
Ricky, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's taken me this long to figure out how to raise my hand. Okay, I have one more question on another topic, and thank you for those answers, by the way. I was reading the Commandant instruction, the original Commandant instruction that was signed, and discovered that industry is actively allowed to participate in decision-making on subcommittees and geographic area plans and things that aren't named officially an area contingency or area committee, area contingency plan. And I just wonder how that is going to work, because that seems in direct conflict with, or at least a workaround of the Federal Advisory Committee Act. So to make it short, I'm a little concerned about industry actively making decisions around the membership that Brian stated at the beginning. It looks like there's a workaround to include industry, and I'm worried about that.
Ricky, I'm not entirely sure which Commandant instruction you're referring to. I think the goal of that area committee, the local planning level, is to engage with industry because they know what they're moving better than anyone, and they have a responsibility to react to any potential incidents. So we've had a lot of great collaboration with industry with respect to the GRPs in this area of the country. There were certain GRPs that really impacted one specific mover of product. I'm thinking of BNSF, for example. They move product along different riverways that it might not be impacted by other movers of oil, transporters. So their input was very critical. Now they're not doing that in a vacuum. There certainly is a process for them to develop strategies and respond to strategies. But the fact that they're thinking about what to do in a case of emergency in these different areas, I think is very valuable, and we want to continue to encourage that kind of discussion. They certainly aren't the last word in what that geographic response strategy is going to look like, but we've certainly found their input to be very valuable in that regard.
So there's no decision making, just to follow up with that on their part. It's just kind of advisory and what
I would say it's definitely more advisory than decision making. But again, if you would like to send me the commandant instruction you're talking about, I could get a little more specific and get you a better answer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ricky, for your question. We remain caught up in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. We will stand by for further questions. Ricky, is that a new hand or?
Yes, now that I figured this out. Okay, so this is really then I'll be caught up on my questions, okay, after this one. So the discussion about industry input and that being valuable, I think is valid, but it's also really valid to have public input. And I don't see that being so easy without an idea summit. That was the December summit. I was super impressed when I got involved 2 years ago with the solicitation for creativity and how to improve plans constantly, and the value placed on just opening it up to citizens. And that's one of the things that resulted in the Health and Safety Task Force. So I would like to just say that I think, and I'm not sure, it maybe does need to be answered or anything, but I'd like to not forget about how to include citizen creativity. And it's better done in a group as opposed to splintering everybody off so we can hear people's ideas. And I really like that idea summit. So just keep that in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that one, Ricky, and Brian or Beth, feel free to pipe in. But so that joint area committees meeting is a meeting of the minds. The working groups will be ongoing at every level. So like the area committees will have their working groups and task forces, the regional response team will have their own. There's going to be more layers of engagement now, more specific to certain regions.
Yeah, I would add to that exactly in those lines. So the construct of area committees is it's an all-comers kind of venue where people can raise ideas, concerns, that sort of thing, and then the work of the area committee is to figure out how to get that addressed. And we haven't really figured out what that joint area committees meeting in the December of each year will look like. So appreciate your input that forum of kind of broader public input across the entire region has been helpful and well received. So we'll take note of that. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I do think that first of all, we absolutely want public input, not just industry input on all those strategies. And then secondly, I think that venue will be a place for the area committees to bring to the RRT some of the concerns that have been brought up during their host of meetings throughout the year.
Okay, and Don has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear both of you say that, because that's what I was thinking, we might be able to do to allow access to, citizens, participants that are not, our team members or industry into the system like before. So I'm glad to hear you guys are thinking that might be a possibility, because the way we're structured now, that's really the only once a year opportunity for those groups to weigh in on the plans, unless it comes up through the AC, the area committee plan. So that, or through the area committee to talk about either their local ACP or the regional contingency plan. Just don't want to lose, we've asked some of our state partners to be here today. We're trying to educate them on all these changes too. This was designed, primarily for industry, who is going to be directly affected first. But in the long term, the states will, potentially either have to make sure that the new plans continue to serve as our state plans, or we have to think about drafting a separate plan like we did, 30 years ago. So not that I'm asking you guys to necessarily weigh in on that right now, but the way I see this playing out, if most everybody's not going to see these plans until a year and a half from now, or October 2026, that's a long time. And I guess we're going to have to figure out a way to connect with all those state partners and even though they're not going to have a mechanism to actively, participate in any of this, their needs are going to need to be met too. Either by us or by this group.
Yeah, Don, to that, I mean, as Brian laid out, we plan to have both coastal and inland area committee meetings throughout this transition process. So in 2025 and 2026 for the inland area committee, we're in the very much the storming and forming stages. So we have a goal of having an inland area committee meeting in September of this year, but I hope in 2026 we have 2 or maybe even 3 inland area committee meetings. So the planning work of each of the area committees, as well as the RRT, will continue during this transition phase. And as we mentioned, there are opportunities to do kind of interim updates to existing plans, including the Northwest Area Contingency Plan, as we did a couple of months ago during this phase. So I just want to reassure everyone that planning isn't stopping. But our focus certainly right now is on, the transition of these plans. But if there is something that arises that requires some sort of immediate update to a plan, or even just a conversation about an issue or development of a job aid, that kind of work can and should continue primarily through the area committees.
Looks like we have another comment from Ricky. And Ricky, I got those reference notes, so we'll take a look at that separately. But I want to address the last question that you dropped. Is mandatory supplemental testing of new products being considered? We sure got in a lot of trouble with dispersants by not testing them in unique waters of concern before using them. Beth, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So I assume you're referring to dispersants and other agents that could be added to the water to address oil spills. So there is a EPA issued a new rule about a year ago, actually a year ago today, and to require additional testing of products that are on what's called the NCP product schedule. This is a list of dispersants and other products like surface washing agents that may be considered for use in an area. It doesn't dictate that they're used. It doesn't set out a process by which the decision is made to use them. That's done at the RRT and area committee levels. So there's a 2-year phase in for those additional testing requirements. So a year from today, so December 12th, 2025, anything that's listed on the product schedule will have met those new testing requirements. The update to that federal regulation that brought those new testing requirements in did also provide RRTs the ability to ask for additional testing, and we have not begun discussing that at the RRT 10 level. So I don't have anything we can say on that at this point.
Thanks, Beth. Ricky, pipe in if you have any further questions on that. Once again, it looks like we are caught up in the chat. We will stand by for further questions or hands. I want to afford everyone here the opportunity to come up with a question if you so desire. We will monitor the chat and the hands for, I'd say, another 10 minutes. And then at that point, we might break early if there are no questions, if that sounds reasonable. If for some reason you think of a question later, the RRT website is a great place to drop that question. You can submit a public comment. Those are monitored constantly, so we will see it there, or you can reach out to the 2 emails provided for the RRT coordinators. Ricky, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I would have come more prepared had I known this was going to be the Ricky show with questions. Okay, so oh, great. I just forgot my question. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. We'll be here.
Oh, and Max added in the chat to provide if you had questions on the RT10. site comments, a link. So down the road, if there's questions that you want submitted.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Okay. So this year in July, the last revision to the hazard communication standard became effective, went into effect. And I know I keep talking about the hazard communication a lot, but it has come a long way in terms of you referring to human evidence and signs and symptoms of exposure and what all should be. It talks about, training and medical monitoring and these symptoms of exposure that are listed in the new HAZCOM rules, and actually go back as far as 2012, some of them, could be used, I think, in the worker and public health units. I mean, there should be an integration of what the hazard communication is for the standards into the training and the medical monitoring. And I just wonder, I think that's part of what the worker and public health units are about, but I'm just wondering if there's been any thought given to integrating signs and symptoms of exposure in general and human evidence into the actual OSHA worker training, safety training, what industries required to communicate. So new HAZCOM stuff and integrating it.
Thanks for that question, Ricky. I think there's definitely an opportunity to engage on worker health and safety at all levels of planning. Again, I think we encourage the area committee level, but I can see applications across the region. Which brings me to a good point. So Sector Columbia River posted a email for any suggestions for their contingency plan. I was going to ask Puget Sound if you had something similar that we could share with this audience before we break.
We do not have a shared mailbox like Columbia River does at this time, but it's a good idea. We'll look into getting one like that so we can share with the public.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to stay on for a couple more minutes, just if there's any last questions. Ricky, go ahead.
Okay, I think really this is the last one. So we, a number of organizations in Region 10, including Alaska, sent a multi-state letter out, which you should have gotten and should have been circulated. And the third point on it that I didn't really address yet was in the vein of having separate citizen advisory units like the RCACs in Alaska. And this was recommended by the President's Commission on the BP oil, Deepwater Horizon. And specifically, it was like the RCACs in Alaska. I think there's an opportunity for next generation citizen oversight, and I think it will look different in different regions of the country. But the main ask is for states, and this is separate. The way it functions in Alaska, it does the environmental monitoring, like baseline monitoring. It could do public health stuff, simple stuff, non-invasive surveys. The point is that it's like the independent feedback loop on whether the plans are actually working as intended. And we've never had that loop in the lower 48. So that I think is a multi-purpose ask, like RCACs. We can imagine what they would look like here. The other part of it is it's a critical gap in national preparedness that was identified by the BP, the President's Commission on the Deepwater Horizon, because it falls into like building community resiliency by engaging the public, not in a militaristic hierarchy, but as separate outside of it, but feeding the information to help make informed decisions by the ACP and the RCPs. And that is a request that's upfront during the planning process, as opposed to after the disaster, when all we can sit around is make signs and protest. So when we presented this, different we, switched hats, the Worker Health and Safety Task Force presented in March of this year. There was some interest in seeking funding for this kind of citizen participation. And I just don't want that to be forgotten. And that's really what I'm talking about in that third request in the letter is the citizens are here. We are an amazing network of grassroots people. When we put our heads together, we can get really creative on stuff and actually be participating actively and provide feedback, which is critical to whether plans work or not. So it's just something that's out there, and I'm going to keep working on it. I'm currently investigating what other regions are doing in this regard in terms of citizen feedback on industry operations. I don't want to call it oversight. It's not really that. But Region 6 is doing some stellar work. So anyway, let's not forget that. And look to that letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. And I know that we have received that, and I think it is being digested at multiple levels. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments before we move into closing remarks? Okay, we'll start with let's go in reverse order. So we ended with tribal. Let's start with tribal now. So Jenna, or if anyone else came online, closing comments.
I don't have too much more to add, but just thank you everyone for being here and posing important questions to get us all thinking about. Yeah, we're looking forward to continuing this work and on our end, ensuring that tribal authorities are maintained and recognized and protections for our shared waters are upheld. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenna. Let's move to the states. Idaho.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, everybody. And I'm going to open it to Dean or Mark Dietrich to have closing comments if they would like.
I don't have too much more to add. Just want to thank everybody for their time in attending this question and answer session. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah and Dean. Washington, Nee?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, echoing all the thanks for people taking the time out and the team for putting this together and answering those questions. And for those of you online participating, those are some great questions for thought. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Nee. Oregon, Wes?
I want to thank the group and all those online as well. If you thought of a question after this, you can certainly reach out to all of us and get that question answered and put into our collective knowledge base and efforts. I want to again thank everybody for working on this, and it's pretty satisfying to finally get to this point of seeing this work move forward after a lot of internal conversation. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, Wes. Columbia River?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, everyone. We look forward to continuing the process.
Thanks. Puget Sound?
Thanks, Jamie. I want to echo everybody's thoughts on thanking for the collaboration. We look forward to a productive 2025. Our next area committee meeting is in Nia Bay on March 11th, and I wish everybody a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain. And then we'll close it out with our co-chairs, Beth and Brian. Beth, you can go first if you want.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, thank you everyone for taking the time today and for your patience over the last many years as we have, been struggling with how we kind of look towards the future. We have always prided ourselves in the Pacific Northwest at being out ahead and being progressive thinkers and really thinking about how we continue to move our collective planning and preparedness forward, and that remains unchanged. I think that some of these changes will enhance our ability to really get down to the local level. So it, I think, will help address some of the things that were raised today. And I'm excited to be moving towards this future state, and appreciate all of you participating with us along the way, not only today, but as we go forward. It really takes the response community and the stakeholder community that has concerns to voice those concerns and have us collectively work to address them through that planning process. So thank you very much and happy holidays.
Yeah, and just to echo what Beth had said, I'm excited too. I'm excited about the opportunity that has presented itself to us moving forward into the next year and a half as we make some of these changes and have a spirit of going forward with improvement. So thank you everyone for your cooperation, collaboration. Thanks for your time and attendance today.